with you, please. China making headlines, no shortage of headlines these days, but China, again, last week, making headlines that moved markets, moved oil markets, this whole thing of China maybe reopening, obviously more and more talk that it will be doing so very soon, whether now or early next year. But again, renewed lockdowns in the Guangdong province, etc. Where are we with the zero COVID policy? Are you seeing any real initiative from the government side that it is going to finally loosen up, given all the economic challenges that are there?
Yes. Well, I'm now in Guangzhou, and as you may know, Guangzhou has reported several thousand cases cases on a daily basis in the past few weeks also. I mean, most cases are asymptomatic, but the government has locked down parts of the city, say several districts, including the district where I'm in. So I've been working from home since last Thursday. And I was told this kind of lockdown will last until today, and we wait for further notice. But the good news is that the government is easing some restrictions. Say, in some cities, they have canceled the whole city test. Say, like in Tianjin, they just scrap this kind of test for the whole city. And in the future, if a city reports new infections, maybe just a small area can need to take the test. And the biggest news is that early this month, a local government reported that the virus is no longer COVID. It has become a virus that you can heal from, even you do not take medicine. So this is the first time the government has allowed such a report in China in about 3 years. So okay. This is a great signal that the government is changing its attitude towards this virus now.
Okay, well, I guess, and do you think that is, I mean, you got the medical report you just mentioned, but is it really the reason that you just had riots also against the COVID policy this week, which is something new as far as we know, with outside of China, that's something that doesn't really happen very often. So the pressure is just getting, the economic, social pressure is just getting too much, and the government feels it has to move on. Or is it that President Xi had his conference and Congress, confirmed his term, and now he's feeling more secure to proceed?
Well, the government explained why it continue with this policy too. And a couple of days ago, the ministry responsible for these virus controls said what the government needs to do before opening up is construction of infrastructure, including facilities for dealing with this virus. And he mentioned the hospitals for the Chinese people compared to developed countries, say like just less than 7 beds for every 1,000 people in China. So he said the Chinese government, China still lags behind others in medical facilities. So the government is building up these facilities to prepare for opening up. But it has been doing so, and is also assessing the development of the virus. So once it is assured that the virus is no longer as deadly as before, and it can handle it if we open up.
Let's talk a bit about China's economy, forward outlook. What's the latest projection for end of this year GDP growth? Is it kind of more or less where it's been the last quarter? And let's more importantly look into 2023, crude oil imports, product quota policy. Is there any clarity on that front from the Chinese authorities towards refineries, for example, on how they can plan going forward?
Yes. Well, when it comes to crude imports, we see that imports are going to surge on a month-on-month comparison in the last 2 months. So particularly in November, because of large oil product exports in the last quarter. As you may know, the Chinese government issued large quotas on exports in the last quarter. So Chinese refiners are trying to use up these quotas before the end of this year. So they are oil product exports. When we talk about oil product, we refer to gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel only. And the exports in November could exceed 6 million metric tons. That's over 2 million metric tons for each product. And so this will bolster the country's crude imports quite significantly in the last 2 months. And as for the whole year, but it might still edge down a little bit because of the previous jobs, particularly in the first 6 months. And as for oil product exports, these large exports would be just temporarily just kind of transition because of the challenges to its economic growth. And so we expect the growth will be quite similar to the third quarter the last quarter will be quite similar. So we do not see, we find it hard to achieve this government's targets of over 5% for the whole year. As
well,
you know, we still
5% sounds pretty high. I mean, the latest estimates I read is 3% for the whole year.
Yes, it will be about so. Yes,
and I mean, we just saw factory gate and consumer figures, October figures, I believe, down on the month before. I mean, obviously that's all linked to the COVID policy. But what about next year? What is the outlook? I mean, let's put it in the context of the investment support that the government may be giving back into industry, back into its real estate sector, etc. Is it too little too late to get the economy moving again?
Well, first, it depends how soon the government is opening up. Say, if it opens up early next year, we can see much better demand for the whole year. But if it opens up, well, say in the middle of the year, after early 2023, so demand may not rebound that much. But on the whole, we see better demand next year. We do not expect to see such tight restrictions next year. And that's a very important factor.
On these, again, Russian oil, China still taking a lot of Russian oil because it's cheaper than what's else out there on the market. What's the latest there on the discounts China's getting on that? And again, would you see that continuing into next year as long as it's available?
Well, China has actually cut the imports of Russian crude in the past 2 months or so. Say, independent refineries in Shandong, they had cut their imports of Russian crude in the past 2 months because of some issues and because more cargoes were taken by Europe before the embargo takes effect in December. So we expect Russian crude to take a smaller share among China's crude imports in November than in the previous 2 or 3 months. And now crude from the Middle East is taking more shares, say in November too. So this trend has been going on for at least 2 months. So after Russia overtook Saudi Arabia briefly, they say for 2 months, and then it was overtaken by Saudi Arabia again. And this trend has been reversed. So we do not expect Russian crude to account for a larger share in the near term yet. And the discounts have not changed much yet. Say it's about, judging from official data, say about regarding the crude imports from different countries, is about $20 per barrel. When I talk about the $20 discount, I was referring to the discounts between Russian grade and the most expensive grade 1 month ago. So necessarily the present discounts or Russian crude. So it might be below that level. Yes.